Hello, my name is Nathalia Melo. I am an IFBB Bikini Pro. I competed at the highest level. I won the Olympia in 2012. And now I am the mom to two beautiful babies, Chloe, who is turning 1 in a few days, and Nico, who is 2. I love challenges. I think they're great, but I think a lot of people also look at challenges in a way that is not healthy. They look at challenges as in like, oh, I'm just gonna do everything I can for 8 weeks, and then after that, poof, they go back to where they were before. I think challenges are very good ways to build habits, but it's completely up to you to stick to them. Well, I always liked to train. I started going to the gym when I was 14, back in Brazil, which that's where I'm from. I remember that my mom didn't like me going to the gym because she didn't really understand the environment. And until this day, she's like the best gym member. She pays and she shows up the first day and then she never shows up again. So it was very hard for her to understand my passion to training and working out. So she never wanted to pay for my gym membership. So the way that I was able to afford to go to the gym when I was 14 was by saving my allowance for 2 months in order to pay for 1 month of gym membership. So it was pay as you go in the gym at the time. I don't even think that there was like a debit card processing thing. So I would save my allowance for 2 months, pay for 1 month of gym membership, and then stay there for as many hours as I could. And my mom would refuse to drive me to the gym too, or do anything to support the gym. I would buy protein powder, and she thought that they were steroids, and she like would throw it in the toilet. So I almost think that because she did all that, it made me be even more stubborn and be like, yeah, now I want to be a very hardcore working out person. Well, I like to go to the gym first thing in the morning. I go to a gym that has childcare, and that is amazing. So I get the kids ready and I go to the gym first thing in the morning around 8. And I think it's very good whenever I go first thing in the morning because it gives the structure to the rest of my day. It almost makes me start the day with the right foot. And I'm like, okay, now I'm ready to take over. Well, it really depends on my kids. I go to the gym because I like and I enjoy the gym environment. But a lot of the exercise that I actually do in the gym would be totally able to be done at home. I like a lot of free weights. I like a lot of kettlebells, band works and stuff like that. So everything that I do in the gym could easily be done at home, but I like the gym environment, and I think that it is a very good opportunity for my kids to socialize with other kids as well. So I think it's an all-around win-win. Everybody has to find what works for them. For the longest time, I meal prepped and it was good, but I feel for me it works better to have just a few things ready in the fridge or a few things that are easy to put in a microwave and cook, but to be made on the fly, because I don't like to eat out of a Tupperware. It kind of freaks me out a little bit, and it reminds me from like my competition days. So, and it gives me that mentality of like, oh, I'm too hardcore kind of stuff. And I think now I have found a place in my fitness and wellness and healthy life that is very balanced, and I don't want to change. I enjoy cookies from time to time if it fits my macros. I enjoy a glass of wine from time to time. After all, I have kids, and every mom out there will understand. So I think it's about finding the balance, and because I've noticed that whenever you restrict yourself too much, and this is coming from somebody who competed for a very long time. And whenever you restrict yourself too much, whenever you're allowed to eat the things, you overdo it. I haven't technically gotten ready for a photo shoot in a very long time. And I have done more photo shoots in the past 3 months than I probably have ever done in my life. But because I have been so consistent with my macros and allowing myself to have treats from time to time, I haven't had to freak out and stress and water deplete and all this crazy stuff that I felt like I needed to do before because I was always up and down. And just so people understand what macros are your main macronutrients, okay? So you have carbohydrates, you have protein, and you have fats. Alcohol can Alcohol wouldn't be really classified as a macro because it doesn't provide you with energy, but it has calories that cannot be burned by your body. So they're empty calories. So whenever you have carbohydrates, they convert into energy, fats, they convert into energy, and protein, they convert into energy. So these are the main macronutrients. I think it's all about the balance. It always goes back to the balance and to the whole thing of not having the mentality that it's either no cookies or the whole box of cookies, which that's a mentality that I had for a very long time. So I just left the house and I had a bit of a sweet tooth in my mouth and I was like, let me get a quarter of this cookie here. And before, I was never able to do that. I can have a box of cookies sitting on my counter for days at a time and you last, which before it didn't. So I think that obviously if somebody is coming from being very, very, very heavy, always giving in to everything might be a bit counterproductive. But tracking everything that you eat, I think, at least in the beginning, gives people a better understanding of how many calories and how many grams of each macronutrient are in each food that they are eating, each meals. And with time, they become better at eating in an intuitive manner. So have a little bit of the cookie. It's not going to kill you. The same way that dieting for a day is not going to make you skinny. I think that whenever you have kids, my husband also comes from he was a sportsman. He played professional rugby for 15 years. So he's always been extremely regimented with everything that he does. So I think that a lot of my regimented and scheduled and routine-like mentality rubbed in from him, which I think has worked very well with our family dynamics, especially once you have kids. It's not just a matter of like, oh, I'm going. You have to think about who is going to be with the kids whenever one of us is gone. So I think that keeping a schedule has put us in a place that everything becomes a bit more regimented and organized and planned ahead of time. Whenever I had my son is my firstborn. It was extremely overwhelming for me to not be. I have always been very independent. I moved to America when I was 19 years old. I lived by myself the whole time, and my husband and I, we have a relationship where nobody is up each other's business. So I have always had the independence of coming and going as I please. So whenever I had my son, it was a bit of a shock to the system to not be able to just go. And that started to become very overwhelming and very, I felt trapped. So I had to sit down with my husband and we talked and I was like, listen, something needs to change. I need to have a little bit of time, even if it's like once a week, that I have a few hours for myself to get my nails done, to get my hair done, to do something for me. And I think that's another beautiful thing after you have kids, how your relationship evolves and becomes more a matter of like teamwork. And he understands, on that same note, talking about the Mother Strong League, on that same note, he understands how important work is for me. So he knows that if I'm not happy with work and if I'm not training, which are things that make me feel fulfilled, I'm not going to be happy at home. I'm not going to be a happy wife, and no happy wife, no happy life. So yeah, and a lot of these things are things that I talk about in my Mother Strong League program to encourage women to be okay with taking some time for themselves, because I see very often women thinking that they are just moms. Once they become moms, that's all they are. And it doesn't work like that. You can be mom, you can be wife, and you can be businesswoman. It's just a matter of being able to allocate time for everything and be organized with a schedule. Yes, it is challenging, but that's something that I always tell the girls. My husband also works 13 hours a day. I also have to be with my kids all day, every single day. We don't have help. I have a babysitter that just now we got because I started to get very busy with my program for 2 hours a week, twice a week. So I only have help 4 hours every single week, but you just have to make it work. And that's something I'm always talking to the girls. And I'm like, listen, life is busy. I get it. But if you don't make time, if you don't make yourself a priority, then who is going to do that? And whenever I develop the workouts and the meal plans and the macro plans within the program, it's all with that in mind. I'm not going to tell somebody who has a job and has kids and has a husband to look after and has a whole bunch of things going on in their lives to be like, you have to eat chicken and broccoli 6 times a day. It's just not realistic. So I think that having a more flexible approach has been, I think, the big point of the Mother Strong League. And to change from within, to appreciate what you have done, what your body has done, and to not be so harsh on yourself. Well, I think that I love challenges. I think they're great, but I think a lot of people also look at challenges in a way that is not healthy. They look at challenges as in like, oh, I'm just going to do everything I can for 8 weeks, and then after that, poof, they go back to where they were before. I think challenges are very good ways to build habits, but it's completely up to you to stick to them. So my first tip would be to make sure that once the challenge is done, you just don't go back to your old self. Because if you liked the progress that you made just in 8 weeks, imagine what's going to happen if you stick to that for longer. The second tip would be to look at what you're doing today and find a way to see yourself doing that 5 or 10 years down the line. Because if what you're doing today is not sustainable 5, 10 years, then it's not doable. Then it's not worth it. So you have to find a way to look at what you're doing today. I know the challenge is a bit more challenging because after all, it is a challenge. So I think that looking at the meal plan and be like, okay, I can do this, I cannot do that, and be realistic. And on that same note, the third tip would be realistic. Let's say that you work crazy hours, you have kids to take care of, and you have your husband, you like a social life. It isn't really realistic to commit to, let's say, oh, I'm going to work out 7 days a week if you never trained before, and then you start off committing to 7 days a week because you're going to burn yourself out. Why not take 1 day at a time? Commit to 3 days to begin with. Oh, I like this. Okay, let's up to 4 days. And don't be so, don't compare yourself to somebody else. Everybody's different. Everybody's life is different. And I know that, especially with the influence of social media, a lot of people have unrealistic expectations of, one, of their progress, and two, of their lives. So I think that don't compare yourself and your reality to other people. And that's something that I always like to talk about on my social media as well. That, yes, I'm busy just like everybody else. Yes, my skin is not the same on my belly after I had my kids, but that's fine. That's fine. So stop comparing yourself to other people's, because everybody has skeletons in their closets, but sometimes they are not going to put it in the right role because it just doesn't suit their agenda.